So what is iteration? That is nothing but looping or repetition. If I consider for loop, in one single stretch, I'm going to write initialization, condition as well as increment or decrement. So I can able to include initialization as well as increment or decrement. It's left to the user. But each time I want to use the semicolon. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on control structure. I'm Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, at the beginning, let me to recall the topic which I have covered in my last session. So dear student, in my last session, I have covered switch statement. Along with that, I have discussed iteration statements. In that, I have discussed what is while statement, what is the need of while statement with syntax as well as example. At the same time, I have discussed do while statement with syntax as well as example. Along with that, I have covered comparison between while and do while statement. And dear student, please remember one thing, that from the examination point of view, both the topics are very important. Now, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with for statement. Along with that, I'm going to deal with jump statement. Now, dear student, let's see what is for statement. So, dear student, this is also an example for iteration statement. So, what is iteration? That is nothing but looping or repetition. So, dear student, when I'm going to use for loop, when I know the number of iteration at the beginning itself, in that situation I'm going to use for loop. So this structure is a fixed execution structure, and it is usually used when I know in advance exact how many times a set of statement is to be repeated, executed again and again. That means when I know advanced how many times I want to repeat that statement, that means I know the exact iteration. In that situation, I can go with for loop. So this structure can be used as increment loop or decrement looping structure. So here I can able to use increment as well as decrement looping structure. And this is the syntax. So at the beginning, I'm going to have for keyword. Along with that, I'm going to have the initialization. Along with that, I'm going to have condition, increment as well as decrement. In that, I'm going to have statements. That is nothing but number of statement or block of statement. So dear student, if I consider for loop, in one single stretch, I'm going to write initialization, condition as well as increment or decrement. And if I go with while or do while, I'm going to have different sections. In that, I'm going to write the initialization, condition as well as decrement or increment. But if I go with for loop, I'm going to club all the things together and I'm going to write all the things in one single line. So this is the difference between do while or for loop. Now, if I consider for loop, in that I can able to have compound statement or I can able to have simple statement. And if I'm having only one statement in my for loop, then I'm going to write the statement as it is. But when I have more than one statements in my for loop, then that should be written inside the curly brace, and it is treated as compound statement. Now moving further, I'm going to have the structure of for loop. Now at the beginning, I'm going to have the initial vector to final vector. So I'm going to have the counter and I'm going to initialize the vector and I'm going to vary the vector until I reach final vector. And when this condition is true, so I'm going to execute number of statements and I'm going to increment the counter. Once again, I'm going to check the counter, and if the condition is satisfied, then enter into the for loop block. So here the initialization is an assignment statement. So what is initialization? That is nothing but the assignment statement. I'm going to assign the values. Then condition. What is that condition? I'm going to check the condition. And I'm going to have the increment or decrement. That means I'm going to increment the looping constraints or I'm going to decrement the looping constraints. And it mainly depends on the looping condition. Based on the condition, I can able to increment or decrement. Now, how the for loop is going to execute. So initialization is executed. So at the beginning, let me to consider the example. For I equal to 0 semicolon I less than 5 semicolon I plus plus. Okay, so dear student, I'll make it less than or equal to. Okay, fine. So this is the for loop. Okay, fine. Now, if I consider the working procedure here, so initialization is executed. So dear student, when the compiler encounter this for loop, what is the job of the compiler? Is to execute the initialization. So job of the compiler is to execute the initialization, then check the condition. So what is I here? I less than or equal to 5. So the condition is true. So what I want to do? I want to print I. So I want to print I. After that, what's going to happen? Now I is going to become 1. 1 less than or equal to 5. So true. Once again, print I. So 2 is printed. Now I is incremented by 1. Now I is 2. 2 less than or equal to 5. It is true. So what I want to do? I want to print 2. Now I is incremented by 1. Now I is 3. 3 less than or equal to 5. Condition is true. So I'm going to get the output 3. That means I'm going to print 3. Now I is incremented by 1. I is now 4. 4 less than or equal to 5. Condition is true. So I'm going to print 4. Now I is incremented by 1. I is 5. 5 less than or equal to 5. It is true because 5 less than or equal to 5. Both the condition is true. So I'm going to get the output 5. Now I is going to increment by 1. Now I is 6. 6 less than or equal to 5. The condition is false. So the for loop is going to come out from this block. So it's going to come out from this statement or block. So this is the way for loop is going to work. Now see here, the initialization and increase fields are optional. So initialization as well as increase or decrease fields are optional. That means I can able to have initialization field in my for loop or decrement or increment field in for loop. So it is optional. So they can remain empty, but in all the cases the semicolon sign between them must be written compulsory. So I can able to include initialization as well as increment or decrement. It's left to the user. But each time I want to use the semicolon. Using comma operator, we can specify more than one expressions. For example, think that I want to write the initialization twice, then I can able to for I equal to 0, comma f equal to 0. So this is the way I can able to use multiple initialization or expressions, and how I am going to separate with the help of comma. Moving further, I am going to have simple example, that is program to find the factorial of a given number. So what is this factorial? For example, if I write 3 factorial, what is the meaning? That is 3 into 2 into 1, and what's the answer? It is 6. So 3 factorial in the sense it is 6. Now I want to write the program to find the factorial of a given number. So here I'm having hash include stdio.h, conio.h. Along with that, I'm having main program, and the execution of the program is going to start from main program. And at the beginning, I'm going to have the initialization. So what does this indicates? That it's nothing but the initialization as well as variable declaration. I can able to declare the variables, at the same time I can able to initialize the variables. Then I'm going to have the printf statement. Now tell me, what is the need of printf statement? Because I want to display the message to the user. For that reason, I'm going to use printf statement. And what is the meaning of scanf statement? I'm going to read the input from where? From the keyboard. For that reason, I'm going to use scanf statement, and it's of type integer. For that reason, here the format specifier is %d, and I'm going to provide the address of that variable. Now, I'm going to take another variable called fact, and I'm going to initialize the value 1. Now, I'm going to write the for loop, and my for loop starts from I equal to 1, I less than or equal to number, and I plus plus. For example, think that I'm going to enter the value 3. So now my end value or number equal to 3. Now I is 1, 1 less than or equal to 3. What is the condition here? 1 less than or equal to 3. So it is true. So control enters into this for loop, and it's going to perform factorial. So fact into I. What is fact? Fact is 1. Into I, it is 1. So 1. Now I is incremented by 1. Now I is 2. Now 2 less than or equal to 3. It is true. Now I'm going to perform the factorial. That is 1 into 2. It is 2. Now I is going to increment by 1. Now I is 3. Now 3 less than or equal to 3. It is true. So I'm going to find the factorial. That is fact equal to fact into I. So what is fact? That is 2. And what about I? It is 3. 2 into 3. It is 6. Now I is going to increment by 1. Now I is 4. 4 less than or equal to 3. The condition is failed. So the control comes out from this for loop and it's going to print the factorial of a given number and I'm going to get the output 6. So this is the way I can able to use the for loop in my program. And when I know the number of iteration in advance, in that situation, I'm going to use the for loop. Moving further, I'm going to have jump statement. So dear student, this jump statement is also very important topic. So what is this jumping? Jumping means I want to jump from one block of program to another block or one program to another. And for that reason, I'm going to have jump statement. So what is the meaning of jump here? That is nothing but transfer of control within loop. So I'm going to transfer the control within the loop. And it is responsible for terminate the execution of loop. That means when I want to terminate the execution of loop, in that time I can able to use jump statement. Even I can able to have exiting a loop. That means if I want to exit from the loop, then I can able to have jump statement. Even if I want to halfway through to skip the loop, that means after executing half of the code, I want to skip. In that time, I can able to use jump statement. So all these are done by using break, exit and continue. So these are the jumping statement I'm going to have in my C program. Now I'm going to have break statement. So what is this break? Break statement has two use. So I can able to have break statement in my program in two different ways. One is in my switch statement, another one is in my looping. In my looping construct, I can able to use break statement. And when the break statement is encountered inside a loop, the loop is immediately terminated and program control resume at the next statement. So when the break statement is encountered inside the loop is going to terminate immediately. And I'm going to have the syntax that is break. Now, let me to consider small snippet here. That is, I'm going to have for loop and n equal to 0, n less than 100 and n plus plus. That means I want to print the natural number. And natural number starts from 0 to 99 because here when I want to stop the execution when I reach 100. So here I'm going to print the n value and at the same time I'm going to check if n equal to 10, n equal to 10, I want to break because I don't want to execute 100 times. When I reach 10, I just want to break or I just want to exit from this for loop. In that time, I can able to use break statement in my program. Now, I'm going to have exit function. So this function causes immediate termination. So when I want to terminate immediately, in that time, I can go with exit function. So this function causes immediate termination of the entire program. So here, if I want to terminate entire program, then I can go with exit function and it forces the operating system to return. Now, exit function act as if it were breaking out of the entire program. And I'm going to have the syntax exit or void exit, and I'm going to return the code. And if the returned code is used by the operating system, and that may be used by calling program. For example, if I'm going to return any value, then it is used by the operating system. And if exit code is 0, that the program finished normally. That means when exit function returns 0 value to the operating system, then it indicates that the executions are completed normally. And if it returns some other value than 0, then unexpected errors happened. So this is the way I can able to use exit function. Now see here, I'm having the if condition, and if n mod I, and if it returns reminder equal to 0, then it is not a prime number and I want to exit. So this is the normal termination procedure or process, because I'm going to pass the value 0. So 0 indicates that normal termination. Now I'm going to have my next type, that is continue statement. So what is the meaning of continue statement? In my iteration statement, certain time I want to skip particular line or particular iteration. In that time, I can go with continue statement. So the continue statement causes the program to skip the rest of the loop in the current iteration, as if the end of the statement block has been reached, causing it into jump start of the following iteration. The continue statement works somewhat like break statement. So if I want to skip certain iteration, in that time I can go with continue statement, and it's going to work like break statement. And I'm going to have continue. So this is the syntax. That means I'm going to use the keyword continue. And instead of forcing termination, however, continue force the next iteration. By using continue statement, I cannot able to force the operating system to terminate, but I can able to skip the iteration. For that reason, I'm going to use continue statement in my program. Now I'm going to have small snippet here. So n equal to 10, n less than 0, n minus minus, and I want to continue my for loop. Okay, so when n equal to 10, I just want to skip that iteration and I'm going to print the n value. So here I'm going to print the n value. Okay, I want to print the n value. So I'm going to print, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And when I reach n equal to 10, that is 10 equal to 10, it is true. In that time, what I want to do? I want to skip the line. I want to skip that particular iteration. For that reason, I'm going to use continue statement. So this is the way I can able to use continue statement in my program. Now I'm going to have go to statement. So go to allows to make us absolute jump. Absolute jump. That means wherever I want, I can able to jump from one block to another block by using go to statement. So this statement execution causes an unconditional jump. So here I can able to jump unconditionally. So I don't have any condition that from where to where I want to jump. So wherever I want jump, I can able to jump. Transfer of control from one statement to another statement within a program, ignoring any type of nesting limitation. So here go to is nothing but the absolute jump, and it is also known as unconditional jump, and the destination is identified by a label. So from where to where jump. So destination is identified by the label which is used as an argument for the go to statement. So here labels are nothing but the identifier. That means how to identify where to jump with the help of label, and used as argument, and same label is also used as argument for the go to statement, and label is made of a valid identifier. So here labels are nothing but the valid identifier, and it is followed by the colon. Now let me to consider the syntax here. So I'm going to have the go to syntax. I'm going to have this statement. So as the name itself indicates that I'm going to have go to, and I'm going to have label name, and here I'm going to specify where I want to jump. So here I'm going to have the label name. For example, go to add. So here I have add function, and I'm going to have the statement saying print percentage D A plus B. Okay, so I'm going to have the label name, and here I'm going to specify where I want to jump. So this kind of jumping is known as absolute jump or unconditional jump. So dear student, in my today's session I started with what is for loop, what is the need of for loop, and how to write the for loop along with example. Along with that, I have covered jumping statements, that is nothing but exit, then continue, along with that break. Along with that, I have covered unconditional jump, that is go to statement. Dear student, in my today's session, you got more information about control structure. Let's meet in the next session with the new chapter called an array. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.